4 of the 5 top-selling beers in the U.S. are light beers. But according to one recent study, we've been looking for beer alternatives. Sales are down for the 3rd year in a row.
A German brewer looked at an American bestseller under a microscope and laughed. Then he got angry. What he found inside breaks a 500-year-old purity law that Germans consider sacred. And you've probably had 3 of these brands in your fridge this month. Budweiser calls itself the king of beers. But maybe it should be the king of corn syrup. Look, I'm not making this up. Back in 2019, Anheuser-Busch and Miller Coors got into a Super Bowl ad war over this exact thing. Millions of dollars spent arguing about corn syrup on national television. That's how you know it matters. Here's what bugs me, though. Beer labels don't require ingredient lists, not like your cereal box. So Budweiser never actually tells you what's swimming around in that can. The corn syrup makes the beer lighter. Sure, but it also spikes your blood sugar faster than barley-based brews. And nutritional benefit? Zero. Zilch. Nada. One 12-ounce can packs 145 calories and 10.6 grams of carbs. That's heavier than most mainstream lagers claiming to be similar. But wait, it gets better. That corn comes from industrial farms drowning in glyphosate herbicides. Researchers have actually found traces in finished beers. Delicious, right? Oh, and that fancy beechwood aged claim on the label? It's just wood chips sitting in a tank for a few days. Traditional barrel aging takes months. Speaking of misleading packaging, Corona has an even bigger problem. Clear glass bottles. That's Corona's biggest problem, and they know it. See, brown glass blocks about 98% of UV light. Green blocks, maybe 20%. Clear glass? Basically nothing. The moment sunlight hits a Corona bottle, hop compounds start breaking down. Within minutes, your beer produces something called 3-methyl-2-butan-1-thiol. Fancy name. Simple explanation. It's the exact same chemical found in skunk spray. That skunky taste people associate with Corona? It's not a flavor profile, it's spoiled beer. So how does Corona get away with this? They barely use any hops at all. Less hops means less compounds to break down. Clever workaround, but you end up with beer that tastes like fizzy water with a lime wedge. And here's something most people don't realize. Corona contains propylene glycol alginate as a foam stabilizer. Sounds scary, but it's derived from seaweed. Some folks report digestive issues from it, though. Now for the real kicker. At 148 calories and 14 grams of carbs per bottle, Corona ranks among the heaviest, light-tasting beers you can buy. You're getting watered-down flavor, with full-calorie consequences. But wait until you hear what Michelob Ultra is hiding behind that healthy marketing. Michelob Ultra wants you to believe it's basically a protein shake with a buzz. Every commercial shows six-pack abs, marathon runners, and people who look like they've never eaten a carb in their lives. Here's the thing, though. It's still made with the same GMO corn and rice fillers as regular Budweiser. Same parent company, same cheap ingredients, just watered down. That 95-calorie count? They achieve it by dropping the alcohol to 4.2%. So you end up drinking 3 to feel what 2 normal beers would give you. The math doesn't exactly work in your favor. And it gets better. Michelob Ultra contains caramel coloring classified as 4-MEI. California actually requires cancer warning labels for this stuff in other products. But beer, somehow exempt. Those celebrity athletes promoting it? They're pocketing anywhere from $500,000 to $2 million per endorsement deal. They're not drinking this stuff at home. Trust me. Studies actually show that people who choose light beers end up consuming 30% more total alcohol. We think we're being healthy, so we give ourselves permission to have another round. Speaking of rocky starts, wait until you hear where your mountain cold beer actually comes from. Coors Light loves showing you those pristine Rocky Mountain peaks. Beautiful stuff. There's just one tiny problem. Most of it gets brewed in Virginia and Texas. Basically anywhere, except those majestic Colorado mountains. But wait, it gets better. Remember that whole corn syrup drama from 2019? Coors pointed fingers at Budweiser for using it. Turns out they use high-fructose corn syrup in their own brewing process. They only admitted this after lawsuits forced transparency. Whoops! Now here's my personal favorite. Those cold-activated blue mountains on the can? Pure marketing genius. And by genius, I mean completely useless. The color change tells you absolutely nothing about quality or freshness. Your refrigerator already does that job. For free. Oh, and if you're vegetarian, heads up. Coors uses isinglass to clarify their beer. That's a fancy word for fish bladders. Actual fish bladders. No label warning, of course. Then there's the can itself. BPA-lined coating that can leach into your beer when stored warm. And let's be honest, how often does beer sit in hot delivery trucks? Speaking of deceptive packaging, the next beer takes misleading bottles to a whole new level. Miller High Life calls itself the champagne of beers. Fancy, right? Well, champagne doesn't contain calcium disodium EDTA. That's a synthetic preservative also used in industrial cleaning products. Delicious. Here's the thing. That slogan dates back to 1906. But the recipe? It's been quietly reformulated multiple times with cheaper ingredients since then. Your grandpa's Miller High Life was literally a different beer. And forget about whole hops. Miller uses hop extract instead. It's a cost-cutting move that strips away the complex flavor compounds you'd get from actual hop flowers. Standardization over taste, every single time. Now let's talk efficiency. High Life packs 141 calories, but only 4.6% alcohol. That's one of the worst calorie-to-alcohol ratios out there. You're basically drinking liquid bread that doesn't even get you there. Oh, and that clear bottle? Same skunking problem as Corona. But Miller got clever. They use chemically modified hop extracts that resist light damage. So instead of fixing the bottle, they engineered around it. Miller Coors spent $42 million in 2022 on nostalgic working-class advertising. Meanwhile, they quietly kept cutting quality. But speaking of clever marketing tricks, wait until you hear about Natural Light. Natural Light. Or, as every college student in America calls it, Natty Light. Here's the thing. This beer contains almost no actual barley. They swap it out for corn and rice because it cuts production costs by roughly 60%. 60. That's not brewing, that's accounting. And get this. The brewing process uses something called high-gravity dilution. Sounds fancy, right? It's not. They basically brew stronger beer, then water it down to hit the target strength. It's like ordering a whiskey and watching the bartender add tap water before handing it to you. But wait, it gets better. They add dextrose, which is just processed sugar, to speed up fermentation. The result? Harsh alcohol notes that hit your head like a freight train the next morning. You know that legendary Natty Light hangover? There's your culprit. At $15 for a 30-pack, you're paying for exactly what you get. Cardboard-flavored regret. Here's my favorite stat. Natural Light has won 0 brewing awards since 1977. That's nearly 50 years of participation trophies. But cheap American lagers aren't the only pretenders out there. Some beers hide behind fancy European names. Stella Artois loves reminding you it's a fancy Belgian beer. There's even a date on the bottle, 1366. Sounds ancient and prestigious, right? Well, here's the thing. That date refers to a tax document, not brewing records. The actual Stella recipe only goes back to 1926. That's younger than sliced bread, literally. But the real kicker isn't the fake history. Most Stella sold in America doesn't even come from Belgium anymore. It's brewed in Brazil and other cost-cutting locations. AB InBev bought the brand and immediately started shipping production wherever labor was cheapest. So much for that authentic Leuven heritage, and they've been quietly shrinking what you get. In 2020, they dropped the alcohol from 5.2% down to 5%. Prices stayed the same, though. Funny how that works. Then there's the sodium benzoate preservative lurking inside. When it mixes with vitamin C, it can form benzene. Yes, the carcinogen. Traditional Belgian brewers would be horrified. Oh, and British pubs nicknamed it wife-beater beer because of behavior problems. That's not exactly the sophisticated image those chalice glasses are selling. Speaking of deceptive packaging, green bottles might be even worse than clear ones. Heineken markets itself as premium European sophistication. But that green bottle? It's basically a skunk factory waiting to happen. Here's the science. Green glass blocks only 20% of UV light. Brown bottles block 98%. So every Heineken sitting under store fluorescence is slowly transforming into something that smells like roadkill. And the ingredients get interesting too. Check the label closely. You'll find E405 and E300. Those are synthetic additives that traditional brewers haven't needed for centuries. But wait, there's more. The American version contains cornstarch to cut production costs. So much for that pure European image they've been selling you. Oh, and that imported label? Heineken paid $20 million to settle claims that some production actually happened domestically. Oops! Here's something your doctor might care about. Each bottle packs 166 milligrams of sodium. That's unusually high for beer. Bad news if you're watching your blood pressure. Even their non-alcoholic version isn't completely alcohol-free. It contains 0.03%. Tiny? Yes, but enough to affect extremely sensitive individuals. Now, after all these warnings, you're probably wondering if any beer is actually worth drinking. Good news ahead. Finally, a beer that doesn't treat its ingredient list like a state secret. Sierra Nevada Pale Ale publishes everything voluntarily: water, barley, yeast, whole cone hops. That's it. 4 ingredients. My grandmother's soup recipe is more complicated than that. Here's what makes them different. They've been family-owned since 1980. No corporate buyouts. No boardroom executives demanding cheaper corn fillers to boost quarterly profits. When the family makes the decisions, quality actually matters. And they put their money where their mouth is on sustainability. Both brewing facilities run on 100% renewable energy. The Chico, California location, entirely solar-powered. Your beer is basically brewed by sunshine. But wait, it gets better. They source Cascade hops directly from Pacific Northwest farms, not through some sketchy middleman. They verify sustainable growing practices every single year. In person, the numbers work too. 175 calories with only 6.5 grams of carbs. Better efficiency than those mass-market lagers pretending to be healthy. Oh, and their beer camp program donates 1% of all sales to environmental causes. Over $1 million annually. But Sierra Nevada isn't the only clean option. Another American classic follows an ancient German law. Now here's where things get interesting. Samuel Adams actually follows the German purity law from 1516. That's the Reinheitsgebot: water, barley malt, hops, and yeast. That's it. No corn syrup hiding in the background. No mystery chemicals with names you can't pronounce. Jim Koch, the founder, he personally taste tests every single batch before it ships. I'm not making that up. The man has been doing this for decades. Most big brewery CEOs couldn't pick their own beer out of a lineup. They use two-row Metcalfe barley and German noble hops. And here's what separates them from the pack. They actually tell you where everything comes from. Right on their website. Full disclosure. Wild concept, right? The company distributed $50 million to employees through profit sharing in 2023. When workers have skin in the game, quality tends to stay high. Funny how that works. Every bottle has a freshness date and brewing location printed clearly. You know exactly when and where your beer was made. But Samuel Adams isn't the only old-school option worth your money. There's a beer from 1759 that might surprise you even more. Here's something that'll mess with your head. Guinness? That thick, dark, almost intimidating stout? It has fewer calories than Bud Light. Yeah, I had to read that twice myself. 125 calories per 12-ounce serving. That creamy, rich beer that looks like liquid chocolate beats out most diet beers on the market. How? 4 ingredients. That's it. Water, barley, hops, yeast. The deep black color comes from roasted barley, not artificial coloring or weird additives. They've been doing it this way since 1759. That's older than America itself. Now the creamy texture? That's not from thickeners or stabilizers. It's nitrogen. The little widget in every can releases tiny nitrogen bubbles that create that signature smooth cascade. Pure physics, zero chemicals. But here's a bonus most people don't know. Guinness actually contains dietary fiber, 0.3 grams per serving from the roasted barley. Name another major beer that gives you fiber. Go ahead, I'll wait. They did use fish bladders for clarification for centuries. Old school method. But the draft version? Now, completely vegan-friendly. Speaking of American traditions done right, there's a Pennsylvania brewery that's been family-owned since 1829. Now here's one that'll make you proud to be American. Yuengling has been family-owned since 1829. That's not a typo. This brewery survived the Civil War, Prohibition, 2 World Wars, and somehow resisted every corporate buyout attempt thrown at them. Speaking of buyouts, AB InBev offered $500 million in 2015. The family said no thanks. Just like that. $500 million walked away because they refused to let some boardroom committee mess with their recipes. 6 generations of the same family have run this place. 6. My family can't agree on where to eat dinner, and these folks have been making the same beer together for nearly 200 years. Now, they do use corn as an adjunct. But here's the difference. They actually tell you about it. No hiding behind proprietary brewing methods or fancy corporate speak. Every single bottle comes from just 2 facilities, Pennsylvania and Florida, both under direct family supervision. No contract brewing in some random warehouse 3 states away. At 128 calories with 4.5% alcohol, you're getting honest beer at an honest value. Independence has a taste. This is it.